The morning sun bathed Liberty Park in a golden haze, softening the edges of the bustling urban oasis. Joggers pounded the winding trails, children squealed on swings, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee drifted from a nearby cart. At the heart of it all sat Margaret Hayes, a 72-year-old black woman with silver curls tucked under a wide-brimmed hat. Her floral dress fluttered in the breeze as she tossed handfuls of birdseed to a flock of cooing pigeons. For years, this had been her ritual, a quiet rebellion against the loneliness that crept in after her husband's passing. Today, she hummed an old hymn, her voice barely louder than the rustle of leaves. 2 police officers patrolled nearby, their boots crunching against gravel. Officer Daniels, a wiry man with a permanent scowl, eyed Margaret like she'd stolen something. His rookie partner, Officer Ruiz, adjusted his belt nervously, his gaze darting between Daniels and the families picnicking on the grass. Neither noticed or cared that their body cameras dangled uselessly at their hips, lenses capped. "That's the one," Daniels muttered, nodding toward Margaret. "Dispatch says she's been loitering here all week. Let's clean this up." Ruiz hesitated. "She's just feeding birds, Sarge. Park's open for another." "Now, Ruiz." Margaret looked up as their shadows fell over her. Her smile, warm and trusting, faltered when she saw their stony faces. "Good morning, officers," she said, brushing seed dust from her lap. "Lovely day, isn't it?" Daniels loomed over her. "You're trespassing, ma'am. Park's closed for maintenance." She blinked, glancing at the sunlit playground behind them. "Closed? But it's only 8:45, and the sign clearly says." "Stand up." Daniel's voice cracked like a whip. When she reached for her cane, he grabbed her forearm, yanking her to her feet. Birdseed scattered as her knees buckled. "Please," she gasped, her voice trembling. "I don't want trouble." "Too late," Daniel sneered, twisting her wrists behind her back. "Resisting arrest now, huh?" Bystanders froze. A mother pulled her child closer. A teenager fumbled for his phone. Margaret's hat tumbled to the ground, revealing tears streaking her wrinkled cheeks. "I didn't do anything." "Shut it," Daniels barked, shoving her against the fountain's edge. Ruiz stood paralyzed, his throat tight with guilt. Then a voice cut through the chaos, deep, calm, and unnervingly familiar. "Let her go." The crowd parted as if by magic. Mike Tyson, clad in a black tracksuit and mirrored sunglasses, emerged with a stocky bulldog trotting beside him. At 58, his physique still hinted at the ferocity that once made him a legend, but his stance was relaxed, almost serene. Daniels tightened his grip on Margaret. "Walk away, Mr. Tyson. This ain't your business." Tyson removed his glasses, revealing eyes that burned with quiet fury. "Funny. I thought protecting people was your business." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a growl. "Or you just like flexing on grandmas?" Ruiz edged backward, but Daniels puffed out his chest. "Last warning. Interfere, and you'll join her in cuffs." Tyson didn't flinch. He knelt beside Margaret, gently shielding her with his broad frame. "You okay, Mama?" he murmured, ignoring the officers. She nodded, gripping his arm like a lifeline. Daniels reached for his taser. The crowd erupted, phones raised, voices shouting, as Tyson rose slowly, his fists clenched. For a heartbeat, the park held its breath. Then sirens wailed in the distance. Part 2 of 4, the aftermath. As the sirens grew louder, the tension in the air thickened. Officer Daniels, still gripping his taser, took a step back, his eyes darting between Mike Tyson and the approaching police cars. The crowd, sensing a potential escalation, began to murmur, some calling for calm while others demanded justice for Margaret. Mike Tyson remained steadfast, his gaze never leaving Daniels. "You're lucky those sirens are coming," he said, his voice low and even. "Otherwise, this might have ended differently." Margaret, still shaken, clutched Tyson's arm tightly. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the din of the sirens. The police cars arrived, and with them, a flurry of activity. Officers poured out, some rushing to Daniels and Ruiz, while others began to disperse the crowd. A senior officer, Captain James, emerged from one of the cars, his face a picture of concern and authority. All right. Let's calm down here," Captain James called out, his voice firm but controlled. "What's going on?" Daniels, still visibly agitated, pointed at Tyson. "This man interfered with an arrest. He's obstructing justice." Captain James turned to Tyson. "Mr. Tyson, can you tell me what happened here?" Tyson nodded, his expression calm. "These officers were harassing this lady. She was just feeding birds. They accused her of trespassing and started rough-handling her. I stepped in to protect her." The captain's eyes narrowed. "And you, ma'am? Can you confirm this?" Margaret nodded, her eyes welling up with tears. "Yes, sir. They said I was trespassing, but the park wasn't closed. They were very aggressive." Captain James turned to Daniels and Ruiz. "You two, come with me. We need to sort this out." As the officers were led away, the crowd began to disperse, some still murmuring in anger or disbelief. Tyson helped Margaret to her feet, ensuring she was steady before releasing her. "You okay now?" he asked, his voice soft. Margaret nodded, her eyes locked on his. "Thank you, Mr. Tyson. I owe you one." Tyson smiled, a rare sight. "No need to thank me, ma'am. Just make sure you're safe." With the immediate danger past, Tyson turned to leave, his bulldog trotting beside him. But as he walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. The incident had exposed a deeper issue, one that needed addressing. Meanwhile, Captain James was already on his radio, calling for an internal investigation into the actions of Officers Daniels and Ruiz. The department had been under scrutiny for months, and this incident could be the spark that ignited a firestorm. As the sun began to set on Liberty Park, the community was left to wonder, would justice be served, or would this be another case of systemic injustice? The investigation. Days passed, and the incident at Liberty Park became a focal point for community outrage. Local news stations aired footage of the confrontation, and social media platforms buzzed with hashtags demanding justice for Margaret Hayes. The police department, under mounting pressure, launched an internal investigation into the actions of Officers Daniels and Ruiz. Captain James, determined to ensure transparency, assigned a seasoned detective, Samantha Rodriguez, to lead the investigation. Rodriguez was known for her fairness and tenacity, qualities that made her the perfect candidate to navigate this sensitive case. Rodriguez began by interviewing Margaret, who recounted the events with clarity and emotion. She then spoke with Mike Tyson, who provided a detailed account of what he witnessed. Tyson's involvement added a layer of complexity to the case, given his public profile and the potential for media frenzy. As Rodriguez dug deeper, she discovered that this wasn't the first time Officers Daniels and Ruiz had been involved in questionable incidents. There were whispers of racial profiling and excessive force, allegations that had been quietly swept under the rug. The investigation led Rodriguez to review body camera footage from previous incidents involving the two officers. What she found was disturbing, a pattern of behavior that suggested a deep-seated bias against minority communities. Meanwhile, the community rallied around Margaret and Mike Tyson. Local activists organized protests and rallies, calling for systemic change within the police department. Tyson, though initially hesitant to be in the spotlight, became an unlikely symbol of resistance against injustice. One evening, as Rodriguez was compiling her findings, she received a visit from Captain James. His expression was grave, reflecting the weight of the situation. "Samantha, I need you to be thorough. This case could be the tipping point for our department. We need to show the public that we're committed to justice, not just for Margaret Hayes, but for every citizen." Rodriguez nodded resolutely. "I understand, Captain. I'll make sure the truth comes out." The next day, Rodriguez presented her report to the Police Review Board. The evidence was damning. Daniels and Ruiz had indeed engaged in racial profiling and used excessive force. The board voted unanimously to suspend both officers, pending further disciplinary action. As news of the suspension spread, the community breathed a collective sigh of relief. It was a small victory, but it marked a crucial step toward accountability. However, the journey to true justice was far from over. The question remained, would the system truly change, or would this be another fleeting moment of reform? Part 4 of 4, the resolution. The suspension of Officers Daniels and Ruiz was met with a mix of reactions. Some hailed it as a victory for justice, while others saw it as a slap on the wrist. The community remained vigilant, knowing that true change required more than just disciplinary action. Margaret Hayes, though still shaken by the incident, found solace in the support she received. Mike Tyson, who had become an unlikely ally, visited her regularly, ensuring she was doing well. Their bond grew stronger, a testament to the power of unexpected friendships. As the weeks passed, the police department underwent a series of reforms. Captain James, with the backing of the city council, implemented new training programs focused on de-escalation techniques and cultural sensitivity. The department also established a community outreach program designed to rebuild trust between law enforcement and the neighborhoods they served. One evening, as the sun set over Liberty Park, Margaret and Mike Tyson sat on a bench, watching children play tag on the grass. It was a peaceful scene, one that contrasted sharply with the chaos of that fateful morning. "You know, Mr. Tyson," Margaret said, her voice filled with gratitude, "I never thought I'd say this to a boxer, but you're a true champion." Tyson chuckled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Just doing what's right, ma'am. We all deserve to be treated with respect." Margaret nodded, her gaze drifting to the playground. "I hope this incident teaches us something. We need to stand up for each other, no matter what." Tyson nodded in agreement. "It's not just about standing up. It's about standing together. We're stronger that way." The city council, inspired by the community's resilience, announced plans to establish a civilian review board. This board would provide an independent voice in police misconduct cases, ensuring that incidents like Margaret's would be thoroughly investigated and addressed. As the news spread, the community felt a sense of hope they hadn't felt in years. It was a small step toward healing, but it was a start. Months later, Officers Daniels and Ruiz faced a disciplinary hearing. The evidence against them was overwhelming, and they were ultimately fired from the force. It was a bittersweet victory. While justice had been served, the scars of the incident would take time to heal. Margaret Hayes and Mike Tyson remained close, their bond a reminder of the power of kindness and courage in the face of adversity. They became symbols of a community that refused to be silenced, a community that stood together against injustice. As the seasons changed, Liberty Park returned to its serene state, but the memory of that day lingered. It served as a reminder that even in the most unexpected moments, heroes can emerge, and that together, we can create a safer, more just world for everyone.